Lesson 11-1, Example 2. Objective, learning to identify and graph integers and find opposites. And in this example we're going to focus on absolute value. An absolute value is the distance of an integer from 0 on a number line. So when you see, we use a couple of bars. They look like this to define and explain, to show when we're finding absolute value. So I could say, let's say I'm just putting in a variable there, h. I would read this as the absolute value of h. I could also find the absolute value of its opposite, negative h. And I would say this is the absolute value of negative h. But we can use numbers as well. So let's take a look. Let's say we want to find the absolute value of 2. And remember that our definition of absolute value is the distance of the integer from 0. So here's 0 and here's positive 2. So this distance here, the distance from 0 is 2. So our absolute value of 2 is 2. But what if we wanted to find the absolute value of its opposite, the absolute value of negative 2? Well, again, it's the distance from 0, so here's 0 and here's negative 2. And so it would be this distance right here. And this distance is 2. There's 1 and 2. The distance from 0 to negative 2 is 2. So it's 2 away from there. It's going in the opposite direction from here, but it's still a distance of 2. So we would say the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So one of those things you might be noticing is that when we come up with our absolute values are never negative. We can find the absolute value of a negative number, but the absolute value itself is always a positive number, that distance from 0. So the opposite integers have the same absolute value as its opposite. So opposite integers have the same absolute value, as we can see with 2 and its opposite, negative 2. Finally, one last thing that you want to remember is the absolute value of 0 is 0. So let's take a look at an example here. Let's say we have our number line here, and we want to find the absolute value of negative 3. So I'm going to go up on my number line, I'm going to find 0, I'm going to find negative 3, and the absolute value is that distance there. And that distance is 1 away, 2 away, and 3 away from 0. So our absolute value of negative 3 is 3. In the same way, we could find the absolute value of 6. So I can go up to my number line, here's 0, here is 6. I'm going to count up this distance away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 away from 0, so the absolute value of 6 is 6.